Okay, I call case 22T0654, the petition of Niagara Mohawk Power Corporation, doing business as National Grid, for a certificate of environmental compatibility and public need pursuant to Article 7 of the Public Service Law for the Lockport-Batavia Line 112 rebuild project located in Niagara and Genesee counties. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. We are here today for a public statement hearing and information sessions. This hearing was the subject of a notice by the Secretary to the Public Service Commission dated October 26, 2023. And that notice is available on the Department of Public Service website. My name is Maureen Leary. I'm an administrative law judge for the department, and I'm responsible for presiding over this public statement hearing and for developing a complete record of the proceeding. I don't see Commissioner Majori here. I believe that is because we do not have any registered speakers, although certainly we can accept comments throughout this proceeding. We're going to begin with asking everyone to please put yourselves on mute. We have everyone here participating as a panelist, which means you must mute your line. That includes Mr. Gentili, please mute your line. Mr. Gentili, can you hear me?
Judge, this is Mary Becca. He has no audio.
Computer audio.
Okay, Sangeetha, can you mute him or Mr. White so I don't hear whatever's up there? Good. Terrific. We're going to begin this afternoon with a presentation by the Department of Public Service trial staff on the Article 7 process. This is a process that's going to be employed in this proceeding for the rebuild project. Somehow Mr. Gentili has come off of mute. Can we bring him back or drop him to an attendee status and mute him, please? Thank you. Mr. King, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, I am, Your Honor. I'm going to share my screen.
Excellent.
Great. Just checking, is everyone able to see this?
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Russell King, and I represent the Department of Public Service in this Article 7 proceeding. Today, I have a brief presentation on the process of Article 7. Article 7 applies to major electric lines. These are lines of 125 kilovolts or more and a mile or longer, or 100 kilovolts or more and 10 miles or longer. Here, National Grid proposes a rebuild of an existing line covering approximately 21.7 miles at 115 kilovolts. Article 7 was established in 1970 as a one-stop new facility siting procedure. It is designed to minimize environmental impacts and quality of life impacts and provide a forum for dispute resolution. It is an open process where state agencies, municipalities, and citizens and interest groups can participate. Article 7 is not subject to SECRA. However, it shares many of the attributes of SECRA, including an environmental analysis, impact minimization, and public participation. To construct, operate, and maintain a major electric line, a company must receive a Certificate of Environmental Compatibility and Public Need, or a CECPN, from the Public Service Commission. This begins with an applicant filing an application for the certificate. The application consists of a petition for an application and 15 exhibits plus any appendices that the applicant deems necessary. Together, these describe the facility location, the nature of the facilities, the need for the facilities, an environmental assessment, a comparison of reasonable alternatives, and, if necessary, an intervenor funding fee. This application is served on municipalities, state legislators, state agencies. It can also be found online at the Public Service Commission's website with the link below, and it is docketed in case 22T0654. The process begins after filing with the Department of Public Service staff reviewing the application. The assigned staff consists of engineers, environmental specialists, economists, legal counsel such as myself, and consumer outreach specialists. Additionally, an administrative law judge oversees the proceeding. There are numerous parties possible to an Article 7 proceeding. These include the applicant and the Department of Public Service, as well as the Department of Environmental Conservation, Department of Economic Development, the Department of State, the Department of Agriculture and Markets, and the Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. All others must request to intervene in the case. Parties have certain rights and responsibilities. They must comply with all procedural rules. They must comply with the directives of the judge, and they have a right to engage in discovery, which is a formal fact-finding procedure, present expert testimony, participate in evidentiary hearings, file motions and legal briefs, and importantly, participate in settlement negotiations. Some applications come with intervenor funds. These are available to municipal and other parties to retain expert witnesses and defray other expenses so that they as a party can best contribute to an informed decision. The amount of funding available is based on the project's length, voltage, and location. The minimum voltage to qualify for intervenor funding is 125 kilovolts. Here, as this is a 115 kilovolt line, there is no intervenor funding available. So far, the applicant has published notice in newspapers in the area of a pending application. The applicant filed the application on November 18th, 2022. After reviewing the application and requiring additional documentation from the applicant, the Public Service Commission deemed the application complete on July 21st, 2023. The parties held a procedural conference on August 9th, 2023, and the parties began settlement on August 30th, 2023. Today, we are at the public statement hearings where we are able to hear the public's comments and concerns about this process. There are two processes for pursuing an Article 7 case. These are litigation and settlement. The litigation process, which is an adversarial proceeding, begins with the pre-filed direct testimony of staff and interveners. This testimony will respond to the testimony the applicant included in their application. Then all parties will file rebuttal testimony. This will move on to evidentiary hearings after engaging in discovery, and it can include site visits as necessary. Finally, there are rounds of legal documents where the parties support their decisions, called briefs, and it will ultimately lead to a Public Service Commission decision on whether to grant or deny an Article 7, a Certificate of Environmental Compatibility and Public Need, and under what conditions. This can really be broken down into three phases. The first is the evidentiary phase, where the applicants and the other parties present their direct cases and respond to each other. They collect evidence through discovery and participate in evidentiary hearings. The next phase is the briefing phase, where parties submit briefs that summarize their arguments and evidence supporting their arguments. Finally, there is the decision phase. The judge may issue a recommended decision to which parties can reply, and then the commission can issue a decision on whether to grant or deny the applicant a certificate of environmental compatibility and public need, and under what conditions. Parties and only parties may appeal the Public Service Commission's decision and must do so within 30 days of that decision. The alternative to litigation is settlement, which is a more collaborative process where the parties gather and develop a consensus set of conditions and findings for the commission so that the commission can decide whether to issue a certificate. It begins with the pre-filed direct testimony of the company, which is included in the application, and then proceeds to noticed settlement, where the notice apprises all interested parties of the ability to participate. There are ongoing settlement discussions as well as ongoing discovery throughout, and this culminates in a joint proposal. From there, it proceeds very similarly to that of the litigated case. Again, this can be broken down into 3 phases. The first is the evidentiary phase, where the applicant has their direct case, and then it moves to settlement conferences, which include formal discovery so that the parties can gather evidence, present their cases, and work on a consensus agreement. And there is the briefing phase. Instead of formal legal briefs, the parties generally submit statements in support where they summarize the key features of the joint proposal and why that joint proposal is in the public interest. Parties may respond to each other's statements, and parties opposing the joint proposal may file statements in opposition and also reply. And then there's finally the decision phase, where the ALJ may issue a recommended decision, and parties may respond to that recommended decision if it's issued. And ultimately, the commission reviews the joint proposal and determines whether it is in the public interest. Again, parties and only parties may appeal the Public Service Commission's decision and must do so within 30 days. Before issuing a certificate, the commission is required to make certain findings. These are the basis of the need for the facility, the nature of probable environmental impacts, a finding that the facility minimizes environmental impacts on certain areas such as wetlands, and that the minimization gives consideration to costs and alternatives. The facility must have a minimum adverse impact on active farming operations. The commission must determine if any portion or if all of it the facility should be located underground. The commission must consider the degree to which it conforms to the state's long-range electric plans. The commission must consider whether the siting of the facility conforms to state and local laws and regulations. Note that the commission has the ability to waive local law and regulations if they are deemed unreasonably restrictive. An example of these is usually noise considerations or height requirements. Ultimately, the commission must consider whether the facility will serve the public interest, convenience, and necessity. Receiving a certificate is only a step in this process. So, once the commission decides whether to grant a certificate with appropriate conditions or approve, reject, or modify a joint proposal, there is a series of detailed plans and surveys that culminate in the environmental management and construction plans. These are detailed plans the applicant uses to describe how it will go about constructing the facility. These are subject to public review and comment. Both parties and the public can review and comment on these plans. As with the Article 7 application, the commission must decide whether to approve and under what conditions, or deny the EM and CP. After the EM and CP, the applicant, insofar as that's needed, will begin acquiring the rights of way as well as access to its rights of way. And then construction begins. Following construction, there is restoration, landscaping, drainage, and site monitoring. Their rights of way are maintained according to the vegetation management plan on file with the Commission. If you would like to review the application, you can do so on the Commission's website. To do so, go to dps.ny.gov, select Commission Files and File Search in the top blue ribbon, and input 22T0654 into the search box. This will bring you to the case docket, and it provides all information filed in the case so far, as well as the parties to the case and the ability to post comments. If you would like to comment, there are several ways to do so. You can make a statement today at the public statement hearing. You can write to the Public Service Commission at the address below. When doing so, please reference case 22T0654, Lockport-Batavia. You can call the number below. Your comments will be summarized and a written version of them will be posted to the docket, or you can follow the instructions on the previous page on DMM and select Post Comments in the upper right corner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Excellent. I want to turn to the company now to just check in and see if they are prepared to proceed with their presentation that more specifically details the project itself. Mr. Gentili, I think you were lacking audio, but are you good to go now?
I am good to go, Your Honor. My apologies for the technical difficulties.
Oh, no worries. We had quite a few of them today, so you were just, having some a little more extensively, so not a problem. Okay, whenever you're ready.
So I will share my screen, and my PowerPoint is ready. Okay, it's loading. Okay, Your Honor, are you seeing my screen?
I am.
Good. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for your patience with me today. My name is David Gentile. I am a project manager with National Grid, and I will be presenting to you a summary of our Lockport to Batavia Line 112 rebuild project. I am joined today by some other fellow project team members. If by chance we get some questions that I cannot answer that fall into their area of expertise, they will be available to answer questions. So with that, let's move along here. First, a little history about the line. It goes way back in time, beginning construction in the year 1906. And it was originally built by the Niagara, Lockport, and Ontario Power Company as part of a series of transmission lines all the way from Niagara Falls and ultimately to Syracuse in central New York. At the time, the line was constructed with horse and buggy technology. It's amazing that these structures and conductor have stayed up as long as they have. The line 112 was placed into service in the year 1907. This project is going to be rebuilding approximately 21 of the 35-mile total length Lockport-Batavia Line 12. So looking at this figure, just for some geography, here is our Lockport station, which is the westernmost edge of our project. The Lockport-Batavia Line 112 runs about 35 miles in length to the city of Batavia, here on the east. Our project ends at structure number 211. Between the Lockport station and structure number 211, we have all of these 1907 vintage steel lattice tri-leg towers and the conductor in this 21-mile section. They are deteriorated in poor asset condition. We have had several line interruptions going back to the year 2013. And each of those interruptions is shown on your screen by these yellow circles. So everywhere there has been a fault and interruption is where you see these yellow circles. And as you can see, The section of the line 112 with the most trouble is between the Lockport station and the last steel tri-leg tower at structure number 211. That is the emphasis of our project. Structure number 212 going east to Batavia, that line section is built on wood poles. We have inspected that and it's been deemed to be an acceptable asset condition. So we are not addressing that part of the line as part of this project. The specific need is to remove all of these steel tri-leg towers. A little bit more geography. The town, there are 4 municipalities that our line 112 runs through. This dashed line here is the city of Lockport, and our line begins there for about 1/10 of a mile just outside the Lockport station fence line. Then it runs for about 5 miles within the town of Lockport, another 8 miles within the town of Royalton, and then another 8 miles in the town of Alabama. To here is where that structure number 211 is. One of the more interesting and prominent features of this line is it runs through a Tonawanda Wildlife Management Area, which is managed by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. And it runs through the TWMA, depicted by this solid blue line here, for 1.8 miles. And I'm going to make my screen a little bit bigger. And as you can tell, this is a very, very wet area, lots of standing water. And we have many structures that are literally in standing water and very difficult to get to within this section of the TWMA. So what our project is proposing to do is to reroute the line 112 to this more teal colored route, which is a more upland area. It's actually less impactful to local habitat in the TWMA, and it will allow for easier access for our crews to get to structures for quicker restoration and maintenance. When completed, this reroute will be approximately 2.5 miles in length compared to the 1.8 miles that's there today. So what will the new line 112 look like? So this is a typical illustration of before and after, and I'll show my screen a little bit bigger here. The existing steel lattice structures are in this very light gray color. This is what's existing today. Our new monopole steel galvanized poles will be installed within 10 to 15 feet of the existing structures they are replacing. All of the structures between structure number 1-5 outside the Lockport station fence line all the way to 211 will be removed and replaced. The existing steel tri-leg towers average about between 60 and 70 feet tall, and the majority of our new steel poles will be about 70 to 85 foot tall. So you'll see, in general, our new structures will be about 15 feet taller than the existing steel tri-leg structures, which is illustrated here. Here's the top of the steel tri-leg structure, and then it's 7.5 feet to this davit arm, 7.5 feet to the top for 15 feet. We are rebuilding the line 112 within its existing right-of-way, mostly on its current center line. The only exception is the reroute we want to do within the TWMA. So there should be minimal visual impacts compared to our existing conditions. In fact, I would say these new steel poles will have a much cleaner, sleeker appearance to them than the existing deteriorating steel lattice structures. So really there should be really minimal visual impacts to the public for the new line. So what's typical on such large transmission line rebuild projects, which take many years to do, depending on their length and complexity, there are typically 4 phases of the project. And this is just some sample pictures to give you an idea of what's involved in each of these 4 phases. The first phase is preparing the site. And what that means is we clear trees and brush to allow us to get into and make sure we have clearances to our structures in the right of way. So at this point of the project, we don't have a detailed count or plan for tree removal. That is required in the next phase of our project, which is our environmental management and construction plan. But what I did to give a magnitude of the amount of tree cutting required for this project is I looked at our aerial photography for the 21-mile length of the project, and desktop analysis, I came up with about 14,000 linear feet of non-contiguous tree cutting. The 21-mile length of the project would be 111,000 feet, so it's just over 10% for some perspective of the right-of-way that we are doing some tree clearing. The typical range or width of the tree clearing that we'll do in the right-of-way ranges from none, where there are no trees, or up as high as 60 feet. And this is to make sure that we get our full 100-foot right-of-way width standard for our 115 kV transmission lines. The next phase is environmental controls. And this is a very important part. We are sure to protect the environment with some of these mitigating steps. Most prominent one and common one is the lay down of these timber mats. So this prevents our very heavy construction equipment from digging up the soil and leaving ruts and transplanting any species into or out of the right-of-way. We also are cognizant of erosion control and sediment. So we will install typically some silt fencing to control stormwater sediment. Sometimes if there is very hilly terrain and we have to control water flow, we will put in these water bars to make sure water doesn't flow where we don't want it to go. Oops, excuse me. Stage 3 is finally the actual construction, putting the foundations in, erecting the towers, stringing the conductor, and ultimately energizing the wire. And the fourth phase is to restoration, restore the area to the pre-existing conditions the best we can. This typically involves, revegetating the land to at least an 80% vegetation cover. That's something that's required of us by the DEC. We'll have crews monitor and ensure that invasive species standards are maintained, that we didn't track anything into or out of the project right away. We also do 2 years of ag field monitoring. So in these farm fields that we work in, it's quite likely that we will compact soil. So when we remove our timber matting, we go in there and we kind of dig it up to loosen the soil. We'll actually monitor that soil over time with some measurements to make sure it's suitable for farming. And in some cases where we had to remove some soil temporarily for construction, we will restore that soil and make sure that the condition of that soil is also suitable for farming. So those are the 4 stages. So the duration of the project, earlier I mentioned this environmental management and construction plan. Russell went through the Article 7 application process with you, and once we get that certification, the next step for us is to get approval of our environmental management and construction plan, which is a very detailed plan of how are we going to manage and mitigate environmental impacts, and then how are we going to construct this transmission line. Typically, the environmental management and construction plan is also approved by the New York State Public Service Commission, whereby they grant us a letter of notice to proceed. They give us approval to move forward with our project. Typically, once we get that letter, within 4 months or so, we will begin construction of our project. A project of this magnitude, we expect to take about 2 years to complete. So we're expecting an in-service date for the new line 112 to be in the year 2027. Once it's complete and in service, there'll be a variety of benefits of the line, the new line 112. First and foremost is an opportunity to replace any aging infrastructure. I mean, this infrastructure going back to 1907 is among the oldest in our service territory. So bringing it up to modern day electric code is very important. We will get increased electric transmission capability. What that means is when we install the new line, it will have a larger conductor than what's in place today. So it'll be able to carry more electric current along the line, along the rebuild portion of the line. So this will better meet our area's current and future electric needs. Cost-effective solution for years. We've been patching this thing together for quite some time, doing maintenance, trying to keep it up in the air as long as possible so we can get to this point of rebuilding it. Having a new line in service will stop all those costs and give us a more routine and predictable maintenance pattern of the line for the rest of its service life. And then finally, we're not changing the operating voltage of the line. It's still going to be 115 kV. So having this rebuilt 115 kV portion of the line 112 will help that line become more reliable and resilient and boost the transition system in Western New York as well. So for public outreach, we have established this website for the project, specifically for this project, titled Lockport-Batavia Transmission.com. This website has been communicated in all of our public outreach mailings. This website contains a variety of information and updates. You can use a feature on this website to actually type in your address and it'll show you where along the line you are located and really what's going on feature-wise in your area. There is a document library where this presentation will be stored. All prior mailings that have been sent out are stored. And also we have a frequently asked question document that can be referred to. But if someone from the public does have questions and wants to reach out to this project team for answers, we have this called our Lockport-Batavia hotline. This 716 number is manned by 3 individuals from our stakeholder management department. So there's always coverage. When a call comes in, a voicemail is left and transcribed into an email. And that email is sent immediately to the 3 people covering this phone line. They decide, can they answer that question themselves? In which case they will respond within 1 business day. If it's a trickier question and need help from someone on the project team, they will immediately reply within 1 business day to the caller to acknowledge receipt of the call and tell them we are actively working on getting a response and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. In addition to the website here, we have this direct email address that people can submit questions, comments, concerns, or even compliments if they would like to our Lockport-Batavia transmission project team. So with that, that concludes my summary for our Lockport-Batavia Line 112 rebuild project.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gentile. And my apologies if I mispronounced your name. I went to high school with someone who has the last name exactly as yours, and that's the way I was pronouncing it. So my apologies.
Technically, Your Honor, you are correct. That is the correct Italian pronunciation. Just my name has been Americanized over many years. So
I hear you, many of us. So just for the group, I was made aware that Commissioner Maggiore has been trying to get into the meeting and had a similar problem to the problems that many of you had. My apologies again. Mr. White, do you know if Commissioner Maggiore is one of the call-in users?
I just joined just about 5 seconds ago. I just got in.
Thank you, Commissioner Maggiore. Would you be interested in addressing the group? We don't have, I'm not sure whether we have We have no registered speakers, but there's 5 call-in folks that I'm going to get to. But if you're interested in addressing the group, please feel free to do so. Commissioner? Uh-oh.
I was still there. I muted myself by accident.
Okay.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry. No, I just wanted, I understand no one has signed up to speak, but if anybody has dialed in, I do want to thank them for taking time out of their day to participate in this process. As a commissioner, I find great value in the public statement hearings to try to really learn how people perceive items that might come before the Public Service Commission as affecting their lives. So that's all you're going to hear from me. I'm not really here to speak, but to listen. So if anybody did dial in to contribute their comments, I very much look forward to hearing them.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Majori. Okay. Since we don't have registered speakers, I'm going to just run through what the instructions are at this point and talk a little bit about my role and the role of the commission. Thank you, both Mr. Gentile and Mr. King, for excellent presentations, both on the process as well as the project itself. I'm responsible not only for overseeing public comments at this and this evening's public statement hearings. I also oversee the creation of a complete record for the commission's consideration. And a part of that record includes the public comments that we receive at this and this evening's hearings on Niagara Mohawk's proposal. So what does it mean to have a complete record in the proceeding? Mr. King touched on it, and it's really based upon the application that Niagara Mohawk has filed with the commission, as well as a potential joint proposal that may settle the matter among various parties, or testimony that may be required if a settlement is not reached. Either way, the commission will review both the comments that are received during the proceeding, and it's not just in this hearing or this evening's hearing, it is during the proceeding as a whole. So there are other ways to comment that, again, Mr. King touched on, and please, if your neighbors or your friends, or you hear of someone that would be interested in participating but missed today's hearings, they can comment in writing to the commission through the secretary. The commission is the ultimate decision maker on this proposal, and they can adopt it in whole or in part, reject it in whole or in part, or modify it. There are 6 commissioners total. In addition to Commissioner Majori, we have Chairperson Rory Christian and Commissioners Diane Berman, James Alessi, John Howard, and David Valesky. So what I'm going to do is ask our call-in users, if you are interested in providing a public statement, please press *3 on your phone. That will put a raised hand function within our eyesight, and we will be able to unmute you and accept your comments. We don't have registered speakers or commenters at this time, and it would not surprise me if there are no call-in users that would be interested in providing a comment. So there's also a raised hand function on your computer itself. So please just notify us now if you would like to provide a public comment. Having seen no one interested in making a public comment, and we have maintained the hearing open for almost an hour, about 50 minutes, I'm going to just remind everyone of the other ways to comment, which were in Mr. King's outline. That is by phone, by email, or by going into the department's website. I would also like to thank Mr. King and Mr. Gentile for your presentations. Thank you, Commissioner Majori, for being here to listen, even though we are not seeing many public comments being provided. Many thanks to our Office of Consumer Services outreach staff, Ms. Kalis, Mr. White, and Ms. Brown Anderson. Mr. McLean, our court reporter, will be transcribing what occurred today, and that will be posted on the department's website under this case number in case you are interested in reviewing the transcript. This proceeding is also available on YouTube. And I think you just search Department of Public Service in order to access them. So with that, and noting that there are no members of the public who have expressed an interest to provide public comments today, I am going to conclude the hearing. And Mr. McLean, we are now off the record.
Yeah,
Thank you.
gentlemen.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good one,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Okay.